falling apart from the early 1980s. And this opened up my world. It describes death in its descriptions, it describes the astral planes, it describes spirit guides and their duties. It describes why we live physical existence and and humanity and the evolution of mankind. A whole bunch of things, which if you go through the text of the contents of the book. And before I came across this information, nothing made sense. My existence used to be quite a dark, fearful situation because we didn't get information about the spirit. And this opened up my world. And I can say now, almost 40 years later, I was surprised to see this document online, the Forget Your Strawman. And by knowing the illusion, that it's an illusion, we know it's a game, and it makes it easier to get through the journey. We're seeing huge illusions right now. I'm sure everybody would agree that it's all there's some really big illusions, and we already know about the illusion of justice in the court systems and things like that. We'll take it a bit further. Take it a bit further to the point where even what we call reality and our physical existence is also an illusion. I might be able to get to some physics information, quantum physics, which tells us that that's the case. The quantum physicists are finding that existence is actually a thought construction rather than a physical construction. I'll keep going with the Forget About Your Straw Man. Oh, here we are. I hope you can see that. And maybe we can read along. So we've gone down to 3 paragraphs, and now we're at Believe It or Not. You actually chose to inhabit your present body for its lifetime. You also chose to be born into your present family. If you are disabled and or physically suffering, surprisingly, you yourself deliberately chose to experience that. That doesn't mean we don't have compassion for those people suffering those situations. And it actually says this can be difficult to understand if this is all new to you. It's something that I've known all this time since the early 1980s, and it's difficult to share. It's so far from people's belief systems, they don't tend to accept it. So on the next paragraph, at the end of each of your lifetimes in a physical human body on earth, you float gently up out of your body and drift into the spiritual realm where there is quiet, peace, and the special support of a small group of close spiritual beings, all of whom are in training in the same way as you. There are very many spiritual beings in the spirit realm, but you have a special affinity to those in your own small group. That's the concept of a soul family. There are people, even in physical existence, which are part of your soul family. This is according to this information, and perhaps I'm pushing some people's belief boundaries, but for me this is true. And we've had a very powerful clinical hypnotherapist here that worked here for 9 years. That's Nino Bossari, and that was his
profession.
And
We can't hear you.
and everything that he's told me corresponds to all this material which I'm sharing with you now. And I'd like to say the reason why this is so important is we need to know who we are. There's too many people in the world working with the idea that things just happen to them. But in this material, there are no coincidences. There's always a reason for these things happening. I'll go back to the text. After each life, you assess your most recent past life and examine what you did wrong. There is not the slightest possibility of avoiding the exact truth about what you did in your last life, and you need a period of time to prepare for your next life on earth. There is no punishment. We are in a training process based on love and support. Interestingly, it is usual for some of your close group to be born into your family and close friends during your earthly life. Right, so in this earthly life, people that you know as friends in a prior life might have been family, right? And it goes through a menagerie of, you go through a menagerie of lifetimes where you might even be an enemy to someone in your current experience. And in this life, you've turned that around so that you can heal those situations in the prior life. So back to the text. Each time you are born, you retain the memories of your most recent previous life for about 7 years, and then those memories fade away until the end of your current life. So recently we played a movie, a documentary we played at our cinema recently was, what was the title? It was only recently. It was about young children that remember their previous incarnation.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a very famous case about a young lad.
The boy who...
Science of the Soul. That's what it was called. You can look it up on YouTube. And in that documentary, the young child was remembering being shot down over the ocean during the Second World War. And even as a child, he was identifying his comrades, you know, in battle, you could say. And his parents were Christian, and they couldn't believe what he was saying. It was almost shocking to them. But eventually, they went and found some of the family members associated with the people that he identified. So that's a very powerful documentary which agrees with everything that I'm talking about here now. Yeah, it says here, that is why many children can tell you details of their last life if you ask them. Anyway, back to your Strawman. Life on Earth is rather like a play, except that the people involved each have freedom of action and can choose what they do. Some people have a great deal to learn, and they act in ways which are harmful to other humans. Because of this, they lie most of the time. They are people whom we can pity. They think that owning lots of things is a good idea. It says here it isn't, and that controlling and harming other people is good and makes them more impressive people. It doesn't. Right? Just a word on that. From other material, the Course in Miracles, it tells us there's nothing wrong with making it big, however, don't make it real. In other words, know that it's an illusion, and as long as you're not stepping on anybody else's toes or restricting people's freedom, it's perfectly okay. I come from the point of view that we live in a universe of infinite abundance, right? And so there is enough for everyone. That's a very deep topic, actually. There is enough for everyone, which means there is no need for anyone to starve. And yet almost 9,000 children starve every day on this planet. That's why we've got to wake up. It's not a matter of, it's not a lack of food and it's not a lack of water, it's a lack of will. If we don't take care of those things, natural law, which is the highest jurisdiction, it's the only jurisdiction as far as I'm concerned, comes back on us, right? And we will experience, let's call it the cause and effect, or karma, whatever you want to call it. What we sow, we shall reap. It's all the same thing.